Okay, let's go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. We're going to look at project controls reporting within Pims Cost. I'm your presenter, Shane Butt, and with me is Jason Kimbrell. He will be running the show, and you're welcome to ask questions through the chat method in Teams. All right, so we're both here based in our Houston office, even though it looks like Jason's in front of our headquarters in Norway there. So Jason, let's bring up the PowerPoint, go through that quickly, and then we will let you take over and show off project controls reporting.
Sure thing. All right, I'll share my screen. Shane, can you, is it popping into the webinar?
Yes, sir.
All right.
All right, let's go to the next slide. Just going to go through these slides really quickly, give everybody a quick bit of background on the company. So Omega, you can see at the top there is our office. That's where we are here in Houston. The bottom is our headquarters in Norway. We've been around for over 30 years now. We're headquartered in Norway, and we've got roughly 1,600 employees throughout the world. Next slide, please. This is a sample set of some of our customers. You'll see names here that you recognize: oil and gas companies, mining companies, engineering, construction companies, etc. And they use one or more of our software products. Okay, the next slide illustrates some of those industries that they belong to. So you can see here oil and gas, pipelines, mining, infrastructure, construction, rail, wind, etc. We're involved in all of those industries with those sample clients you saw on the previous slide. All right, next slide. This is our locations around the world, from Australia in the bottom right there, Europe, Norway, Canada, the US, Guyana, wherever oil and gas centers are typically is where we are, but we cover all the time zones throughout the world. And the last slide I'll talk to is our Pims product suite. So this is developed over the last 30 years. It's driven heavily by input from existing and potential customers. Obviously today we're going to focus on a portion of cost management. It's not a full demo of cost management because that takes a lot more time than we have available to us today, but it's just a portion of that Jason will show, and how that adds value to your cost engineering and project managers. But we also cover, all of the key tools necessary for companies to execute capital projects better, from document control, completions, quality, risk, interface management, etc. But the focus of today will be cost management, and that's where I'm going to hand back to Jason.
All right, thank you very much. Shane, can you just do a quick check, make sure everyone is able to see the PowerPoint in the Q&A in case something, I assume someone may have spoken up if nothing's showing up.
Yeah, that's good. I've got nothing in the Q&A, so I'll keep monitoring that.
All right. My name is Jason Kimbrell. Thank you for the introduction, Shane. I'm a project control specialist with Omega 365, and I work on our project cost management software. Today, what I want to talk about is how you can leverage the data that you get using Pims Cost to do your cost engineering activities, to create common project controls reports, the kind that we make every day, right? So the idea is that since you're using Pims Cost to do your cost engineering work, you've got the ability to pull reports directly out of Pims Cost based on that data. When I think about project controls reporting, I like to kind of break it out into two types of reports. The first type of report is like that standard boilerplate report, right? These are the things that if I open up an AACE manual, I'm going to see pictures of, right? They're S-curves, they're tables that give me maybe my actual versus my plan, maybe how I'm trending for my forecast against my budget, progress curves, staffing histograms, right? They're the everyday tools that we use to tell the story of our project, that we put in project reports and project leadership team PowerPoints. And when we make these kind of traditionally, we spend a lot of time setting up spreadsheets and formulas that we have to progress from month to month. It takes a lot of time to maintain, but we do it because this is, I mean, they're the tools that we use to tell this story. The second kind of report are these kind of ad hoc reports, or management gifts, as a project controls manager I had once called them. These are things that typically are a report that we make that's trying to answer a very specific question. So that could be doing a complex variance where someone comes to you and says, hey, can you tell me what we were going to spend in Q1 of 2021 in business plan, in our current plan, in our forecast, in some other estimate that we did 3 months ago that we've got to tie back to. Or it's a report where we've got to rearrange scope, right? So maybe someone comes and says, hey, how much owner's cost is on a project? And maybe I've spread my owner's cost budgets around a couple of different WBSs. And so in order to isolate that, I have to download the data, take it offline, copy paste special values into another workbook. And at that point, since I'm not using the original data to do the report, I may have some integrity issues with the data because I could fat finger something and maybe I wouldn't know. And all of this takes a whole lot of time to do. So the cool thing is that Pims has ways for us to do both of these reports, and I'm going to talk about two of those tools today. First is our project cost dashboard. So within Pims, every project has the ability to create a customized, configured dashboard just for that project. You get to select from about 20 different common reports, put them in any order you want. You can show and hide the ones you like. You can even put commentary around them. And then when you're done, you just send the link over to your stakeholder, and then they can go consume the report if they have access to Pims. The second kind of tool that we'll look at is the Pims Pivots Reports tool. This is a really great tool for handling those kinds of ad hoc reports, right? Where we need to examine the data in a different way. We need to slice and dice it, but we can do that live within Pims using the data that's already there without the need to actually download it. So with that, I'll actually just jump into the tool. Shane, I'm going to jump over. I'm going to stop sharing my screen real quick. And I'm going to jump into the tool. And I'll share again. Can you see it?
Gotcha.
All right. Yep. So here I am. I'm inside Pims. We're a web-based tool. And you can see I've got some favorites here that show my cost management dashboard and my pivots. Those are the two things we'll look at today. But I'm also going to open up our menu just so you can see. It's kind of out of the scope of this presentation. It's how I actually get all the stuff into the report. We're going to pretend it's about the 15th of the month. I've already done my forecast, but you can actually see all the different applications that we can use within Pims Cost to manage our projects. And let's say it's the 15th of the month. I've just sent a link to my project manager to my dashboard, and he's able to go in and consume the data. So this is our dashboard, and you can see I've got, like I said, it's a configurable dashboard. You can pick between about 20 different reports, put them in any order you want, and send the link on. And all of the reports are pretty common, right? So you can get a view of your project at a glance, right? Giving us our actuals, planned, how we're doing against our forecast, how much contingency is in there. We've got the standard cost curves, and most of these reports you can actually interact with. So as I roll over, you'll see the data that underlies that report. I can also show and hide different things. So if I want to see forecast information, I can click on forecast. I can turn things off if I don't need to see them. I don't need to see that. I can zoom in. So if I need to see a specific point in time, it's real easy for me to just zoom. I can reset. If I like the specific chart and I just want to isolate it, send it on to somebody else, I can send it to a JPEG if I want, or a PDF. And I can also make them go full screen. So if I'm, for example, in a project leadership team meeting and I just want to talk to my cost dashboard, I can do that, and I can zoom in on something if there's a specific question. A couple other reports in here. So we have a cost variance analysis. So we can do earned value directly in the tool. If we've got a % complete, you can calculate an earned value. So we can run our cost variance metrics against it, CPIs, etc. I've got that standard table that we've made 1,000 times, showing our budget, our plan, our actual, forecast, and any variance. And these reports can actually be drilled down into, so I can open and close to see more information. Same thing for our earned value reporting, right? So we can see our owner's cost. If we wanted to drill down and see what each of these disciplines is doing, I can do that. And just to keep going, right, we've got reports that handle progress, stuff that does forecast versus plan by year, milestones, milestone trends. All of these are reports that I've made 1,000 times in a spreadsheet, but the difference is that by using Pims, I've done all my forecasting work in Pims, I've done all of my cost control work, and I don't have to export any data. These update whenever I publish my data. That's all I had to do. And because I don't have to spend my time being a spreadsheet jockey, I get time to actually do analysis. So one of the cool, important things with this dashboard is that I can actually put text that points out stuff that I need my stakeholders to look at. So in this case, I've indicated that, hey, I'm $10 million below budget in my forecast. That's because we had some savings in topsides, and it was offset by some additional engineering and hull construction costs. That's important because providing context for our cost information is the entire reason that we're doing this kind of reporting thing. And a lot of times it gets missed because we spend so much time kind of trying to get through the forest. When I'm ready to communicate this report, I can simply copy the link at the top of the screen. That's it. Copy, paste, send. If anyone that has secure access into Pims, and we've got various reader types of access, could get into the dashboard and consume the data if they need it. Now, one scenario that might pop up, right? So I've in my commentary indicated that I've got topside savings, right? So let's say that we needed to drill down on that and see what it was. So I can open up this FPSO piece. I can go to topsides and I can point out, hey, here's exactly what they're saving money on, right? They're $40 million under budget on construction, $7 million on the allowances. Now, if I'm in a meeting or if I communicate this to my project manager, typically the first thing they do is go talk to the topsides lead or the discipline lead that's responsible for that budget. And then that discipline lead comes to me, the cost engineer, and says, hey, I don't want to be blindsided anymore. I want to have a report that's just for me, that just shows my scope. What's cool about the dashboard is the same report can go to the engineering leads. And if I set up my work breakdown structure, I can actually filter the entire report to show me only the scope that I want to see. So once I hit topsides, my charts actually change to reflect topsides. Really nice, really powerful. Takes care of the kind of boilerplate reporting that we do. It leaves you time to do other stuff. So that's the standard reports, right? But what happens when we get a request to do a report that is kind of outside the norm? So for example, I may have a stakeholder come to me and say, Jason, I need a report that shows me my forecasted spend in 2021 broken out according to project scope. Well, I don't have a widget here that tells me, you know, that kind of specific thing. I can break it down. I can start looking at, you know, annual spend, but it's a little more useful to create something that's detailed for this stakeholder. And for that, we would use the pivots tool. I'm going to open up my menu. I'll go straight into pivots. And if you've used pivot tables in Microsoft Excel, you'll find this is really familiar. So pivots tool opens up, it's a blank screen. I can select a report, and there's about 50 different reports. And what these are basically just different queries on data within Pims cost. And these reports cover a range of cost engineering activities. So we've got reports that handle changes, that handle contracts, estimates, finance, personnel. But for this demo, I'd like to take a look at project time phasing, because it's something I think as cost engineers we're all used to seeing, right? We see our scope, and then on the left-hand side of the screen, and then we see on the right-hand side of the screen a nice pivot of how we phase that cost. So when I click it, that's what I see. I can see my WBS for this project. And I switched projects, by the way. You're not, if you're looking at Boulder and you're paying attention, I did switch over to a different one. And I can zoom in on each of these. I can drill down as much as I need to. It operates just like a pivot table in Excel, but the difference is that I never spit this data into Excel. I never had to download it first. I just did this pivot table directly within Pims. I can even see the data that underlies any of these totals, just like I can in Excel. If I double click, it'll show me the drill down. I can even export that to Excel to make custom views if for whatever reason I needed to. But I can export the same reports to Excel as well. So if I hit the Excel button, it'll download, show me exactly the view I'm looking at. And what's neat is I can drag and drop things to analyze the data and transform it, right? So if I wanted to see each year's plan and forecast next to each other, I could do that. You'll see I got 2019, 2020, 2021. Now I know that my project manager or my stakeholder that came to me and wanted a report, specific report, said they need to see it by year. So I'm going to pull up that period. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit to give me some more real estate. I'm going to filter by year. I'm going to pull this planned bit out because that wasn't in the scope that they had asked for. And I can see forecast. Maybe since I'm only looking at 2021, I don't want to show column totals. So I can configure the report to just show me 2021. I can open it up, and there's what my project manager was asking for. Maybe they need to see it in currency. Maybe the thousand isn't as relevant. You can change the formatting, same way you do in Excel. We also have some user-friendly shortcuts, like just typing currency, and give it to you in a currency. So here's my spend in 2021. There's my specific view. I'm ready to hit Excel and send it off. Or I could make a chart, a visualization out of this, right? So to do that, you can actually click each of these options. And I can click Show Chart. So here I've got a view each of these. A little bit more space. Maybe I want to see it as a percentage. I want to see pie charts instead. I can do that. And if I'm ready with it, I can actually give it a title. Hit OK, and I can export it. Or if I'm crunched for time, can actually just say copy it to the clipboard. And if I want to come back to it, I can actually save that chart as a template. And return to it later. And I did all of this without ever having to export it to Excel until I was ready. So let's take that example of the complex variances. We can actually do those comparison reports where we get the question about, can you give me a view of my plan, my estimate, my business plan, my quarterly plan, my actual plan, right? We've got to have all these different data points lined up against each other. We can do that in Pims as well. We have a specific report for it. I'm going to load a report called Project Time Phasing Compare. And it gives me the same thing we were looking at, but with different data points. So you can see I've got my actual data points, and I can see the phasing for my actuals. I can see phasing for this archive, which is my business plan. And in Pims, an archive is just a snapshot. So it's just a snapshot in time of the data that we had live in the system at that moment. And Pims takes snapshots every time that you change a month or change a baseline. You can also take one whenever you like. You can have as many as you want. You're not limited to just one a month. I've got booked in here. That's my SAP cost because we can connect into your ERPs. I've got earned, forecast, original budget, current budget. Let's take an example where maybe I've got to make a report where I compare what I'm spending by quarter, by year for 2021, right? So what am I going to spend? What did I say I was going to spend in each of these estimates for each quarter? So I'm going to filter down to 2021. Take that grand total off again. And then I'm going to bring in quarters. So if I click this show field chooser, I can see all the different ways that I can slice and dice these reports. I'm going to bring over the quarter. When I open it, I'll see here's Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 of 2021 with all my estimates lined up against each other, ready to do some variance analysis. Now I can open these and see each of my WBS levels individually, but it might be more useful to actually just take that source and put it over here. So now I can see here's Q1 2021 with my actual, my archive, my forecast, my baseline. So as I'm reporting, if something changes, I can always see that change in this report. One of the cool things, though, is I don't have to rebuild this report. I can actually save it as a template. So if I go to Layout, I can say New. We can call it Quarterly Spend Template. And I can save it and any charts I may have made to go along with it. Now I could export this to Excel and then send it along to the stakeholder that asked for it. But if they have access to Pims and the pivots, I can actually just share the layout. So if I wanted to share it with Shane, put in his information, and he starts as a reader. So he can either read the data that's in here, or he can be an editor where he can actually edit the view that he's looking at. Now, note I said view, I didn't say he could edit the data, just the way that the data is presented. We're not actually changing the data that's underlying this, we're just changing the view, transforming it, slicing and dicing. So I've got two more things I want to show, because both of these are kind of reports that I've had to do in the past that have been real time consuming that Pims helps us save time on. So the first one is that question about owner's cost, right? What happens if I have a budget that I've set up that is spread across multiple WBSs, but I need to isolate it, right? I used to get asked this all the time. So here's an example. I'll show you kind of the sausage being made for this project. So here's the WBS, and you can see the way that I've set up my reporting structure is around actually what I'm delivering, right? This is the physical deliverable. I'm building converter stations. I'm building cable installation. I'm building a fiber optic cable, right? This is what I'm actually doing. And under my converter stations, for example, I've got 4 of them. And then for each, I set it up so I can track the management, engineering, the equipment, construction, the pre-commissioning. Now, if I get asked, how much management cost do you have on this project? I've got to go normalize that data. If I'm doing this in Excel, I've got to copy this to another form. I've got to go pull this management out of each of these WBSs because I didn't set up my project to report that way. In Pims, we can accomplish that by using our alternative structures tool. So Pims actually lets you create multiple reporting structures because each of these little pieces here is a work pack. That's the smallest that I can actually break my project out into. And since it's the smallest I can break my project out into, I can rearrange it without actually changing any of this data. I'm just going to change subtotals around. So you can see I've created one alternative structure here, and I've done it by activity. And I've done it to isolate the types of activity costs that I've got, right? Here's management, here's all of my engineering, all of my equipment in bulk, all of my owner's costs, etc. And you can hold as many alternative structures as you want in Pims. You're not limited to just 3. You're not limited to 2. You're not limited to 1. You get as many as you need to do your reporting. So now that I've got that set up to rearrange that management cost so it's all together, I can go into pivots and I can find I've got several pivots that look at alternative structures. And I'll pull in this estimates one and I can make the report of here's my forecast right now for how much I've got in management. It's 150 million. I didn't have to massage the data. I didn't have to copy paste it into anything. It's all live inside Pims. All I did was create an alternative structure. And as time goes on, I can come back to this report. I don't have to recreate it or re-upload it or wait 24 hours for it to go to a data lake, to go to Power BI. It's already in Pims. So if something changes, I get that change too. The last example I want to give is a tool that we have in Pims that also combines with the pivot tool to help you manage an owner split. So frequently our projects are joint venture and we're asked to as cost engineers to report on how much our partner's share is on a project. And the difficulty with that is that when we track work, we don't track it in a 60-40 split. We track it according to the work, right? So my management here is costing $150 million. I don't have 3 line items that say management for co-owner 1, management for co-owner 2, management for co-owner 3, right? If I'm doing this in Excel, if I'm doing this in a tool that's not Pims, I've got to export it to Excel, take the total, and then multiply that total times whatever the split is for my partner, right? Sometimes we call this partner share. Sometimes we call it what's the one I heard? We'll wait in a second. Anyway, we can go into owner split. We can set it up. Net and gross. That's what it's called. So we can do that kind of reporting here. I can say who owns what on my project. I can set that up at a project level. So I've got 3 shareholders. You can see each one's percentage. And I can run a pivot on that data. So if we wanted to see the time phasing we've been looking at this entire webinar, I can see it, and I can see it split between what each shareholder owns. I didn't have to do any extra math. I can even get it all the way down to the work pack. Now, what else is cool about this is we recognize that those joint agreements can be quite complex. So sometimes we may sell only a portion of the work. So for example, if I need to split it so that I pay 100% for management and then my partner pays for engineering, I can do that. So we can actually split according to the WBS. So here I've got my management. I could say I own 100% of it, but my partner splits this engineering with me. No problem with that. The other thing that's cool, you can also do it according to a range. So if my project is a joint venture for a year and then it's no longer a joint venture, we can support that. Or if you sold, more likely, you sold a piece of it at some point, and now you don't own 100% of it for a certain duration, right? You can set that up in a range and run the same report. All of it without having to do extra kind of forecasting work. I'm just doing the cost engineering work that I do day to day within Pims, and then I'm letting the software break it out for me. So saving time. I'm not being a spreadsheet jockey. I'm doing actual analysis work, and yeah, that's kind of that's the gist. By using Pims, you get reports without having to go and do the extra grinding work. We're actually doing the analysis stuff.
Excellent. Thank you, Jason. It was a great review. Hopefully everybody that's on this call, either live or later on the recorded version, can get something out of it. Do you want to just bring up the last slide in the PowerPoint deck for me, Jason? And if you want to know any more information, the last slide has our contact details. So just waiting for that content to come up.
Gotcha.
And we also had some great questions come through the Q&A. I've answered all of those. And we hope to see you next month. If you need more information on anything you saw today, anything about Pims cost or Pims in general, or even just Omega in general, feel free to contact either myself or Jason. We appreciate you making the time and hope to see you again soon. Thank you for now. Bye.
Bye.